Appreciate you being here. All right, item 4 today we have is the tax reevaluation presentation. We have Ms. Leslie and Justin with us, so good morning to both of you. Glad to have you.
Good morning, Chairman Jones. Good morning, Vice Chairman, Craven County Commissioners. Thank you very much for having me this morning. I want to come before you this morning to give you what I refer to as something of a report card. We've referenced already this morning, large projects take a lot of teamwork. So I want to go over all the things that had an impact here on this revaluation, how the property owners responded to us. I want to go over where we are today, how the next year looks, and how our next reval going forward in that. For the 2016 countywide revaluation, it was decided by then that Craven County would conduct a revaluation every 4 years. No control of our own. We had Hurricane Florence, and then we went right into COVID. So it was decided instead of 4 years, it ended up being a 7-year delay. Now, the statutes say that every North Carolina county must conduct a countywide revaluation at least once every 8 years. So all the while the hurricane, the COVID was going on, the clock was still ticking, okay? When you ask a county government real estate appraiser, when do you start working on a revaluation? When are you working on a revaluation? That answer is every day. Every day, the appraiser is working on either the current revaluation or the upcoming revaluation. It never stops. Now, for a lot of us here in the room, we have a reference point as to when we began this revaluation in our own mind. So I want to take you through this, and if you will, Steve, we'll start with the first slide. On August 22nd, 2022, we mailed all the tax notices to the property owners. Well, in those tax notices for the real estate property owners of Craven County, we provided an insert announcing the upcoming countywide revaluation, okay? Now, it wasn't just to say it's coming. We gave information as to when the revaluation notices would be mailed, when would be the last day to submit an appeal, and to keep up with the ongoing updates, you could always refer to our website. Okay, so that, in some of our minds, was the announcement and got it started, okay? That was in August of 22. The next month, in September of 22, a big thank you to Amber and Jasmine in our HR. They coordinated 31 social media posts between Facebook and Twitter. Now, you'll notice that in September of 22, up until the day that the revaluation notices were mailed, there were 22 posts on social media telling everyone it's coming. Be looking in your mailbox. It also promoted the town meetings, okay? And then from the time that the revaluation notices were mailed up until the day that you could submit an appeal, there were 9 posts there. The next slide is the next month, October. Now, many of us here in the room were very involved in our town meetings. We had 8 town meetings where we went out into the communities from the time of mid-October to the mid-November, and we had approximately 150 in attendance. Okay? Next slide, Steve. While we were at the town meetings, we distributed brochures, a very general, broad information about the countywide revaluation. We distributed 1,250 brochures. Not only at the town meetings, but we had at the front counter of the tax department and also at the 4 payment windows in our tax collection department. The last week in December, first week in January, were probably distributed the most. That's when our taxpayers came in those last week or two, and that's where a lot of the brochures were handed out then. So thank you to Craig. I remember Craig really encouraged him for the brochures, and they were a very good resource. Thank you for that. All right, let's talk a little bit about this slide. This was something a little new and didn't plan on the reaction we got, but we got very good reaction from our citizens. I came to you, you'll see the top right slide, I came to you on February 20th 1 week exactly before the revaluation notice is mailed, I gave a 30-minute presentation preparing all of us for what is to come now that we're ready to mail the notices. I gave very good information on why our revaluation is solid, and I also gave you a very good update on our real estate market, which is exactly what drives the revaluation values. Okay? You'll see the next one in the middle, that's the presentation, the PDF that was posted on our website. Now, at the bottom right corner, you'll see that is a video. We made the 30-minute video, and then we posted that on the front page of our website. That video became very, very resourceful for when I received emails. I could send the link and say, watch the video. I was regularly being told by whether on my staff or folks in the community, hey, I watched that video. I learned a lot in that. We most definitely will be having another video for our 2027 revaluation. 1,103 viewers watched that video. Okay? For the next slide, the next video, if you remember, one of our advancements in this revaluation is that a property owner can go to our GIS website and search the comparable sales that were used to value their property. On my webpage, we have 3 ways that you can learn how to do this. One was on the revaluation notice itself on the front page. Gave the steps on how to go and see on the GIS website what comparables were used. There were 2 other sources for instructions on that matter. You could go to the tax administration website, a subcategory all of its own, and we gave a tutorial, just a couple of minute tutorial. You could watch the video. And you could also, right below the video, for the written instructions on how to search your comparable sales. That video tutorial had 676 views. So we got really good feedback on that as well. For the next slide, we had a very general video to talk about sort of the highlights of a revaluation. This is very typical of North Carolina counties having revaluations. Most tax department websites will have something of a general broad video there. It had 440 views. So I took these 3 videos and I thought, okay, well, this is nice, but how does it compare? You know, now when I make presentations, I report numbers, but I also compare numbers. If you'll go to the next slide, I found very interesting. This is as of May 31st, 2023. Now keep in mind, all of your commissioner meetings are videos on YouTube. So as of May 31st, Craven County government has exactly 240 videos. The top 4 most watched videos is the one where I came to you on February 20th. The next one, 860 views, and the following 822 views for March 13th, 2020 and March 17th. Both of those matters were for COVID. And then the 4th most watched video is our search comparable sales. So we now know that we want to have at least 2 more things going into the next revaluation is we know we want to have a presentation the week before we mail notices. And then we also want to continue the subcategory, the resource for the citizens to search their comparable sales. It turned out to be a very useful resource for our citizens. This slide, I began working on restructuring the tax administration website page around May of 2022. And I have to give a lot of credit here to Don Wainwright in our IT department. I worked him hard. Okay? And Steve will agree. But it paid off exponentially. I'm so proud of this website. I'm so proud of the resource that it has turned out to be to our citizens. If you notice on the left-hand side on the blue bar, those are all of our categories for the tax administration webpage. But if you go over to the right side, that blue bar, those are 14 subcategories of just the revaluation 2023 category. 12 out of those 14 are directly tied to the revaluation. The last 2, you can go to GIS, which is very helpful to the revaluation, And then on every subcategory, I always put that you can pay a bill, pay my bill, okay? So thank you very much to Don Wainwright. A lot of work has gone into that, and I will continue with that. So now we have all this information out there, a lot of resources. Let's go to this next slide. Very, very interesting. So we mailed the revaluation notices on Monday, February 27th. We have a new feature, a new resource for our property owners, where you can go to the GIS website and search the comparable sales. If you look on the one on the left, the first one, that is Monday, February 27th. That was the day we mailed the notices. Okay, it's a very average day for GIS, and there were 3,441 clicks on parcels for the GIS website. That's an ordinary day. The next day on Tuesday, February 28th, that's the day that the values were made public on the GIS website. Revaluation notices are getting ready to hit the mailboxes the next day. So there was a little bit of an increase there, 4,065. Now, the next day on Wednesday is when the revaluation notices hit the mailboxes. And you can see that sharp uptick to 8,031. And then on Thursday, 9,364. And then it dropped off a little bit by Friday. So the folks were very interested in going to the GIS website to see how the appraiser determined the value, to see what the values are for their neighbors. 9,364 was the largest number of inquiries on one day. Now the next slide is very interesting as well. That week's worth is 15,123 clicks. There's another figure there right below on the top right. It says total inquiries, 30,858. What these two numbers represent is that the 15,000 figure is the number of parcels that were clicked on one time. So 15,123 parcels were clicked on just that first week. The 30,000 is the total number of clicks, because you can click on a parcel more than one time. You can go back to it, this and that. There were a total number of 30,858 clicks on the GIS website. So now we have all the information out there. We've provided great resources for our citizens. We've told everyone we can possibly think of how we could tell them revaluation is coming. So we mailed the revaluation notices on Monday, February 27th. This slide is what I consider the report card of our revaluation. 1,682 appeals were submitted for this revaluation. I had estimated 2,400, possibly up to 3,000. So you can see I'm very well pleased and can say that the hard work of our entire team has well paid off. Craven County has 56,505 taxable real estate parcels. So 1,682 calculates to a percentage of 2.977%. Very good return. Okay. Remember, we had another advancement in this revaluation, that our software system could provide a means for the property owner to submit their appeal online. We had a total of 317 appeals submitted online. And currently today, as of Friday, we have 70 appellants, 70 parcels who have filed to continue to go to our Board of Equalization and Review. I expect that number to become smaller over the next couple of weeks. We still work things out along the way, and it's very typical for that number to decrease. Of all the appeals submitted that I saw coming in, if I had to pick one topic that I heard the most, would be this next slide was an email that I took directly from one of our citizens, one of our property owners. And I want to take this time this morning not only to let you know, but I want us to dial in, dissect this topic, because when I leave here this morning, I want all of us to have a very clear understanding as to why we did what we did when we did it, and how our future looks over the next year and for our next revaluation that will be January 1 of 2027. So if we give me just a minute here, and hang on with me, because I think this is very important for our citizens to know and understand, okay? Just received your new property tax assessment, and like every one of my neighbors, was quite shocked at the large increase in assessed value of my property. I think we can agree we all heard that. I understand that you are matching current retail values of property sales in this area, but values of homes are at historic and inflated highs. Should you not have anticipated that the housing market will eventually tank in the future and adjusted your figures accordingly? Is your office going to do a readjusted appraisal in the future to react to market value drops so that county citizens will be treated fairly when paying their taxes? Why we did what we did when we did it. Why did we do this? Because North Carolina General Statute 105-286 says that every North Carolina county is to have a reappraisal at least once every 8 years. Now, you've heard me mention we waited 7 years, and I commend that decision because you're going to see later in a couple of slides that we made the right call. We did not position ourselves behind the 8 ball waiting till the very last year. What we did, North Carolina General Statute 105-283 says that all counties are to have their reappraisal at current market value. The market is the buyers and the sellers. So to appraise current market value for this reappraisal, for every reappraisal, what is the property worth on January 1 of that revaluation year? When we did it, we had 7 years in this revaluation, and we had to do by the 8th year. But there's something that North Carolina has experienced over the last couple of years, and it's called a state mandate. Under North Carolina General Statute 105-286, we're going to dissect this in the next slide, and I want to explain to you how Craven County fell within that statute. You see letter A at the top. That is for every North Carolina county to have a revaluation. But under that category, letter A, there's 1 and 2. Number 1 just lists all the counties in North Carolina. Number 2 is called the mandatory advancement. A county whose population is 75,000 or greater, and that's Craven County, must conduct a reappraisal of real property when the county's sales assessment ratio falls between 85% and 115%. When the sales ratio, and I'm going to, well, I'll just give the example now, a sales ratio. Our sales ratio, you're going to see in the next couple of slides, is 98%. And what that means is when a property sells for $100,000 on the open market, the county has it appraised at $98,000. That's sales ratio. What is our value? What is the ratio of our value to the current market value? Okay? So this 85 to 115% is a cumulative effect of a county-wide. Okay? We're going to come back to letters A and B, but you can see letter A that when you are under a mandate, you have 2 choices. You can conduct your countywide revaluation the 3rd year following the year that the county received the notice. Now, we received the notice in 2022. So if we add 3 years to that, we're looking at 2025. We could not conduct a countywide revaluation in 2025 because that put us outside the 8-year requirement. That's why we did what we did when we did it. So we go to letter B, the 8th year following the year of the county's last reappraisal. And that's where we fell into why we did in 2023. Let's go to the next slide, Steve. I've talked about us being under a state mandate, that I receive a letter from the North Carolina Department of Revenue. This is that letter. The first paragraph, there was a little bit of a confusion by the Department of Revenue, and they were apologizing for that. They had said we could do our revaluation in 2025, but then they caught it and said, oh no, that falls on the 9th year. You can't do that. So a little clarification on that one. The second paragraph there. Since Craven County's last reappraisal was in 2016, by statute, the next reappraisal must be conducted no later than 2024. We understand that currently Craven County is set to complete the next reappraisal on January 1 of 2023. The 2022 reporting to the DOR was that our sales ratio was 76.88%. That is below the 85%. We are under a mandate, and we chose to do the 2023, and you're going to find in the next couple of slides why that was a good decision. So let's talk about sales ratio a little bit. These are the North Carolina counties that had a countywide revaluation, and we now have all reported to the state, all 100 counties, of our sales ratio. This is how we fall. You can see on the first column on the left side, there's Craven just a little bit down. We are at 98.00. That sales ratio is a cumulative effect of all of the year of 2022. And you can see where some of the other counties fall. Brunswick County is exactly at 100%. When a house is placed on the market for $100,000 and it sells for $100,000, and the county's value is $100,000. Okay. You can see, I believe there's one a little over. Yeah, Alamance is at 104.22. Henderson County, I think, is very comparable in looking at counties to Craven, and their sales ratio is 99.9. Okay. What I've been very interested in, and I went back and looked at some records and having conversations among my peers throughout the state, there's a lot of buzz right now that the counties in North Carolina that had a countywide revaluation the year before us in 2022, because we all know that this real estate market has been hopping, keeping a lot of us busy. So we went back and looked at the reporting for this year. What is the sales ratio of the counties that had a countywide revaluation in 2022? There are 11 counties. 7 out of the 11 counties have already fallen in 1 year under the 85% market. This slide is a very good indication that our real estate market is strong, and I'm going to show you in just a minute, it has not stopped. 7 out of the 11 counties of the 2022 revaluation have already dropped. They are now under a state mandate to conduct a reappraisal in the next 3 years. Okay? They will be having a revaluation in 2026. Very important slide. You'll remember when I came to you in February, on February 20th, we talked a lot about the real estate market being strong. You'll see the bottom portion, that's what I presented to you on February 20th. I've been tracking it each month since, and we are 1 month away from the first half of 2023. There's no change in the market. The average days on market are still within, if you remember I told you 1 to 90 days is considered an excellent market. See our days on market here recently in the 30s. If you take the percentage increase and you find the average of that percentage increase, that's 12.88%. Remember, these are straight numbers. There is no agenda behind this reporting. This is taken directly from our local MLS, the Neuse River Region MLS. To point out even more so for our real estate market, you take this average of 12.88. This will be a very good indication of where we are and where we're headed. By May 31st, we had to report to Department of Revenue our sales ratio, where we are as of January 2nd through May 31st of this year. Our 98.00 sales ratio has now dropped to 86.8. We have already dropped 12 points in the first 5 months of this year. We are 1.9 percentage points from dropping to a state mandate. What that 86% represents is that when the property is placed on the open market and it sells for $100,000, that means Craven County Tax Department has that property appraised at $86,000. That's how much the market is continuing to increase. Okay? Any question? Yes, ma'am. Any questions about this
What
slide?
if the property sells for less than the appraised value?
Yes, ma'am. Same thing. And I'm going to talk about that on our next slide.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And one other question.
Yes, ma'am.
In the beginning, when you started, you mentioned the 51,000 notices that were sent out.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that 15,000 properties or 15,000 individuals?
51,500 individuals.
I mean, 51,000.
Individuals.
That's the individuals, not because some of them got more than one.
Like own multiple parcels.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
Good catch. Yes, ma'am.
Market's crazy.
That's where we are.
I don't understand it. How it can
Where do we go from here? This is what I very much want to dissect for you.
percent.
For the 2016 countywide revaluation, remember, it's Craven County's approved by the commissioners. We will conduct a countywide revaluation every 4 years. 2027 will be our next revaluation. But let's look at what the market is doing. Let's say the market continues to show the trend that it's been showing. We're going to be in a mandate come this time next year if the market continues. Okay? So let's go back to the statute. Let's go to letter A. The third year, following the year that the county received the notice, I will receive the notice in May of 2024. What's 3 years after 2024? 2027. Let's say this afternoon, by tonight, the market drops. Tomorrow morning, we wake up and we're in a depression. Now, our values are more than 115% come May of 2024. We're above the 115%. Letter A, I will receive the notice in May of 24. We have 3 years to conduct a reappraisal, 2027. Let's say that the market plateaus. It evens out. We have 0% increase, 0% decrease. 3 years, 2027. Regardless of the market, we are set for a countywide revaluation in 2024. So to answer this email that expresses a lot of the sentiment, are we going to adjust the values when this market changes? Yes. But all the while, we're going to have a countywide revaluation every 4 years because that has been what's voted upon by the commissioners before 2016. I say once again, thank you to the commissioners who voted for every 4 years. And it's right in line with Mecklenburg, Wake, a lot of the more real estate active markets, 4 years. Okay? I have one more slide, one more number. This is my most favorite slide of my presentation. This slide is the one I'm the most proud of. We have 9 real estate appraisers, 9 folks on our real estate appraisal staff. We could not be here this morning without these 9 folks. Justin, if you will, stand for just a second. Very proud of Justin Deese. He's been with Craven County, I believe, since 2006. He's been both a residential and a commercial appraiser. He stepped up to the call. He oversees this division, and he is very well respected not only among our staff, but I can testify that he is very well respected among our peers throughout the state. He has led this team through a very contentious revaluation, a very hard, challenging revaluation, and he has stepped up and answered the call. I'm very, very proud of Justin. We have a couple of other folks, the other 8 I do want to recognize. You'll see townships 1, 3, 5, 6, and 9, Allen Strong. He really chipped in. We needed an extra set of hands. He understands the definition of team. He has really stepped up to help us out. Township number 2, I'm most proud of Mark Collins. His first countywide revaluation, he's handled places like Fairfield Harbor that is a moving target at times, very challenging neighborhood. And he has definitely stepped up. We have good results. We've had good feedback. And he has done an excellent job. I'm very proud to have him on the team. Township number 7, Eric Fritz, a very smart young man, a very populated township. He has handled that workload very well. His first revaluation as well. Township number 8, Hal Isley. He was very instrumental with Lou and Bryce in our GIS in creating how to search your comparable sales. Very sharp guy. Township number 8 and present use value. I get a little emotional when I think of Andrea McConnell. Back in the day, before my time, there was a need for an appraiser to take on the present use value. She stepped up. She said, I'll do it. She was scheduled to retire earlier this year. I asked her to stay. She agreed for about another 3 months. I went back and said, Andrea, you want to stay a little longer? She said, I'll stay. She said, I'd like to stay and do a little more cleanup. And I said, well, if you're going to stay that longer, can you stay a little bit longer after that? I'm just not ready to let her go. She is the true definition of loyal, and you must have loyalty to your team. Very, very appreciative of Andrea, especially during this revaluation. Administrative data entry, April Matta. She's our spark plug. She takes very good care of our appraisers. She is the one who oversees the appeal track module, keeping the appraisers straight, all these appeals that are submitted online, and we have gotten very good feedback and emails of the customer service she has provided on behalf of our department. Robert Harvey and Alan Walters, they joined our team in April of 2023. You are going to see very good effects from these two young men, very sharp, very smart, very techy. So the improvements and the advancements that you're going to see in the 2027 reval, these two will definitely have a hand in that. Very proud of them. I want to thank the commissioners for your support, not only with the software system, getting out to the town meetings, all the times I've wanted to come and report to you, let you know how we are. Every one of you have been a pleasure to work with, very professional. I want to thank Jack and Jean. We spent the last 6 weeks before the revaluation, I met with them weekly, making sure all the details were being handled, the I's were dotted, T's were crossed. That was a very valuable experience for me. And I've mentioned before in other presentations that Craven County is the 3rd county in which I've served. This is my 4th countywide revaluation in my career. So I think I'm very well qualified to make this next statement. But I want to personally thank on my behalf my county manager, Jack Veit. We had some speed bumps along the way. I had just some general questions about revaluation. I had questions about how would Craven County like for us to approach this or that. Jack has always been available for my call. But the one thing that I most appreciate about Jack and his support, he demands my very best. Demands my very best, and I'm just even more excited to get to work on Revaluation 2027. So thank you, Jack. Commissioners, this concludes my presentation. You always, every time, if I can ever help you, any of your citizens, please don't hesitate to let me know.
All right, Commissioners, questions from the board? Anyone?
I'd like to say thank you to a very professional evaluation and also for all of your outreach to the citizens across this county. I think the results speak for themselves, but I don't think I've ever been as well informed over what was going on, what worked, what didn't. You and your team, all of your team, have done an outstanding job.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I had made a call to you and asked you to make a comparison for me.
Yes, sir.
And you asked me how much time I had, and I said, take the time you need. And believe me, it was really unbelievable how fast you got back to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Leslie. Appreciate your
Chairman.
presentation today. Thank you. Commissioners, we're going to take a 5-minute